All right, we've covered moving and we've covered just the basic strike, but now we're going to do a little bit of defense with a shield, but also with body mechanics and with motion. There's an old, I don't know where it comes from, but it's the truth, so I like it in any event. It's an old a swordsman saying, or what I believe is a swordsman saying: evade rather than deflect, deflect rather than block, but block rather than die. Obviously, there's a good hierarchy there. Now, what we define as all these different things: evade rather than block. If someone's swinging at you, dodge, or move in such a way that they miss you. Preferably, they miss you and don't realize they've missed you until you've already hit them. And there's techniques in motion that I'm going to cover in other videos that'll deal with some of those evasions. But a lot of times it's just watching your opponent and knowing what your distance is, what your timing is, and what your relationship is. Distance, easy enough. How far away are they? How far away am I? And also that incorporates what kind of weapon do I have? Can I reach out and touch them from this direction, from this distance, or do they have a weapon that can reach out and touch me before I can touch them? Then there's timing. Timing is also relatively self-explanatory. Do I start moving after they've started moving? Before they've started moving? Do I force them into a movement? It's all the timing of defending and attacking and so on and so forth. And then lastly is relationship. Relationship sounds like it's relatively complicated. God knows we've all had very complicated relationships. But for the purposes of this and how I'm using the term, it's how am I standing to my opponent? Am I straight ahead of them? Are we right in front of each other? Am I a little bit to the side? Am I behind something that I have to work around or that they have to work around? Did I manage to get all the way behind them? And so I am facing them, but they are facing away. You know, all these different relationships. Do I need to flank them? Am I coming up from behind? So on and so forth. Which foot is forward? Are they over on this side and this foot is over here, or vice versa? Now, once again, though distance, timing, relationship, you'll see those covered in other videos while we do other techniques and other principles. But for our purposes right here, let's keep going with deflect rather, or evade rather than deflect. Just get out of the way. If you make someone miss you when they thought they were going to hit you, then there's going to be that moment of, where did they go? That they're thinking in their head, and hopefully you've already hit them by the end of the word where. Deflection is a little bit different. Deflection is when their sword or the weapon is coming in, and you either shape your sword or shape your shield to deflect it and get it out of the way. So you affect it and it's not going on its original trajectory. That's also pretty good because they thought they were going to hit you, and the motion still continues, but they've missed you. You just physically affected them to make them miss you. All right? In which case, hopefully, you hit them when they're thinking, where did they go? But the problem is, because you physically affected them, their reflexes are already saying something's gone wrong and you need to change your tactics. Something needs to be fixed because obviously they didn't get hit. So the deflection has told the opponent that they need to try again. Evasion, you don't tell them that they need to try again, they've just been killed or they've just been hit. All right? Deflection is still pretty good though, because you have physical contact with them, you know precisely where they are because you've just touched them, and then you can hit them. So rather than the where that happens in evasion, it's now where did the happens in deflection. And then lastly, there's block, well, deflect rather than block, but block rather than die. Blocking is you put something, whether it's a sword or another weapon or a shield, in between your opponent's weapon and your body. Blocking is the easiest thing to do, but as far as defense goes, it's the one that gives you the least amount of advantages. Because if I block, my opponent knows precisely where I am. I haven't moved. I've just superimposed something, so the shot didn't count. What they hit doesn't count as me getting killed. All right? They hit something that wasn't my body. But I didn't move. They still know precisely where my body is. The target did not move, just something got in the way. And once again, if you start getting up against very good fighters, or even just intermediate ones, all the way up to very good, as soon as they get feedback, get physical reflex feedback that that shot didn't work, like a block, they're going into another combo, or they're going to be moving around and trying to get around that defense. And now you're playing catch up, because now you're waiting for them to do something else. So, but you're still not dead. You're just behind the game at this point. So, when you're holding a stance, once again, you can have same stance depending on one thing or another. I'm holding a center grip shield. There are also shields that are called side mount, where it's actually strapped to your arm, and it's more of a getting strapped across like so, which have a lot more stability because they're part of your arm, but they have less maneuverability as far as turning one way or another and moving the shield around. And also, I can put this shield out at full arm's reach and still be more or less covered all the way out here. However, if I have a side mount shield, it has to be attached to my arm, so this is the farthest I can extend it and still get the full face-on coverage. This versus this. Ultimately, it depends on what you prefer. Whether you prefer a side mount or whether you prefer a center grip, it's up to you. It's a matter of personal preference. But for your stance, once again, normal stance. One foot forward or the other foot forward. Most of the time, if you're in a shield wall, you'll have a shield and you'll have your front foot forward, because in the SCA, you can't be hit in the knee down. Well, you can, it just doesn't count. So, a lot of guys will have their shields also resting on the knee, because if you're in a shield wall and it's taken forever for the enemy to get to you, or it's taken forever for the marshals to call lay on, then a lot of guys will just rest their shield right there on their front knee and just yeah, take a breather. You'll need one. You won't get another opportunity very soon, unless you die. But when you're engaged, if you're engaged on one-on-one, most of the time it's something along like here. I see a lot of guys will just put their shield in front, kind of peek over the top, have the ubiquitous iron chicken stance, where they've got a nice big basket hilt right here. They've got this protecting their side, and most of the time, the strikes are going to be coming from here because they're up against a right-handed opponent. If they're up against a left-handed opponent, it's still not that difficult to cover your wrist, cover your arm, or just move, cover that. So, when you're dealing with a shield, it's heavier than your sword. This is still a fairly light shield, but it is heavier. So, what you don't want to do is you don't want to, if you're going to block, or even if you're going to deflect, or whatever the case is, you don't want to go to your opponent. If someone's coming in with a strike, you don't block out here. You can, if it's part of a larger technique where you block and you move in and are doing other things. But you're not just going to be doing that kind of stuff. First off, you're not moving at all. The target that the opponent's aiming for is you. If you just stand there and do this, all he has to do is keep swinging and wait for your arm to get tired. I don't care how big and strong you are. Doing this with several pounds of wood and metal is going to tire you out. It's going to tire you out a lot faster than swinging this around is going to tire him out. I guarantee it. So, you always want to move with your shield if you're moving. If you're in a shield wall, that's something different. Those are different tactics. Those are different techniques. All right. This is one-on-one. You want to be able to see your opponent. You're still covered. You're still covered out here. You can duck under. You've got this to defend here. Even if you're up here like this, you can still see your opponent. You never want to raise your shield and completely block your vision, because you need to see what he's doing. I personally have killed quite a few people because I'll throw a shot up to their head and they will do this. They'll blind themselves. They can't see where I'm going. It's hard to see out of these helmets anyway. So your blindness doesn't need the help of the shield. So don't do this. If they're coming up to your head, you move. you reposition. You still protect your head. You still superimpose your weapon or your shield in between them and your head and the target, but you also move. You take your step. Sword comes this way, take a step, because this also allows you to counterattack. Now we're going to be dealing with counterattacks later, show you some good ones, but for right now, what I want you to do, just like we were doing with the stepping drill, where you keep an eye on something, you keep an eye on a post or something like that, and you step around it one way or another, I want you to do the same thing with a shield, and every now and then, just see where you can put the shield. Now notice, the shield didn't move when I just did that. It looked like it did, and it did reorient itself, it changed relationship, but it didn't move in space. I did. I'm right here now, but then if something's coming to the side or I want to superimpose my shield in a different way, the shield didn't move in space. I did. I changed the relationship between myself and the shield. So, from one side to the other. So do that same stepping drill where you're going around, but have the shield up. Move the shield to where it's covering different parts of you, but make sure you can always see your opponent, or see at least part of your opponent. Because even if I duck low under here and I can't see their head, I can see their feet. At the very least, I can see where they're stepping, and if I took a good look at their weapon, I know what kind of range they have. So, with a shield, if you're just static in a shield wall, your job is to stay alive. So, you turtle up, you get as small as possible, but you're also nice and braced. Your elbow's bracing here. A little bit later on, we'll show you how to lock your shield with the guy next to you if you're in a shield wall, or you've got something braced here or up like that. Once again, because of personal preference, just experiment with what type of shield you like, center grip or across the center grip or side mount, and see how you like to hold this. Remember, right here, nice and defensive, but it's not the best for attacking. That's why most guys that I've seen anyway, and this is how I fight as well, if I've got a shield, I'll be hiding my sword right behind the shield, and it'll still be, once again, in that same kind of motion. Same kind of motion, whether it's coming there, coming forward, and so on and so forth. Now there's a couple different things that you want to watch out for with the shield, little ways you can get yourself in trouble, but I'll cover that in a different video.